Okay, it is Thursday, March 30th, 2023 at 12:50 p.m. Eastern Time, USA. I'm Mitch Miller. This is my video journal. Today I'm going to talk about my ideas for Tesla, the car company. But first, I want to release a little intel about Seattle, Washington. Two things. Number one, Seattle Airport does not appear to have any pay telephones. No line out of the airport other than your smartphone or whatever you land with. Pittsburgh Airport does have at least two payphones, one in each wing that I was in, probably four. So if you have a bunch of information on white-collar crime that you'd like to fly to the United States, land and call a lawyer to pick you up from the airport and release this information. Your best bet so far is Pittsburgh, right? And that's my theory about pay telephones. They're disappearing because white-collar criminals don't want ways for people to call the authorities without being hacked or tracked, right? Your smartphone has all these apps on it. They can be hacked or tracked. It's very easy. If you search something on your search engine and found white-collar crime, it'd be easy for them, an group of executives, to pay a hacker to hack your smartphone. So even if you flew out to, say, Europe like I did, your phone could be tapped, and they could have moles and plants in those government departments arranging to be there when you come in to talk to them. So your best bet is to go to a lawyer, private lawyer, and figure out with them how to disseminate the information or how to prosecute the information. So these payphones are disappearing. You might say they're going to try to say it's because drug deals happen at these phones, but you could put a municipal surveillance camera on a payphone and probably figure out most of the drug dealers in your city. Right, and that's what we want. We don't want payphones with cameras in them because then the payphone company could be hacked, and we're in the same situation as the smartphones. But a surveillance camera from the municipal city that you're in, that might be okay. You could still wear a mask. Chances are you're not going to get caught, at least calling a lawyer and saying, I'm here, I have a bunch of information, I'd like to meet with you. So Seattle's not a good location to fly into for that. Pittsburgh is. When I flew into Newark, there was no pay telephone in the common area. Hi, Zelda. Zelda's getting in this one. But I think there was a bank of telephones at the gate once we got through security that we flew out of. There might have only been one functional one. I think I tried to use it to call my father-in-law collect from that payphone. So Newark might be a good option. Again, I'm willing to fly around if you pay me to different airports and report back to this computer what airports have pay telephones and what ones don't. But there's always the risk that as soon as I fly out of there, they yank those phones out anyway, you know. So that's the first bit of intel. I use the pay telephones to establish ground communication as soon as possible. Second bit of intel is the radio station in Seattle, and this is, you only know this if you actually go to the city. The radio station in Seattle, WEXP, I think it's 90.23 or something like that. Public funded radio station. They do broadcast, and they stream the same exact music and program that they're broadcasting over the airwaves in that city. It's a little delayed because it's streaming, but it is the same program. Now in Pittsburgh, we have YEP. They have a separate program they broadcast over the airwaves, hi Zelda, than what they stream. They produce a different program for their streaming, at least through the app I have, and probably through their .org. They stream different music altogether than what they're broadcasting over the airwaves. So this could be important to supercomputers for a reference point of an internet-based streaming, streaming the same thing as what's being broadcast over a large antenna system. So again, it's Intel for whoever is getting this, or for the supercomputers. And on that note, we had a active shooter scare yesterday, multiple schools in Pittsburgh and going up the west coast of Pennsylvania. So I'm going to take this as an acknowledgement by the international community and quite probably the intelligence community that they are acknowledging Herb and Dolly Hatfield's cruise from San Francisco to Alaska as a viable buffer zone for people flying into Canada and the top 2 states of western United States. So that's a confirmation. And I say this especially because Josh Hatfield, the grandson of Herb and Dolly Hatfield, goes to Central Catholic or Oakland Catholic, whichever one's a boys' school and one's a girls' school, I think. Whichever one's a boys' school, he goes to that one. So they did target his school, and we do want to know that he's protected. He can pass on this story about how his grandfather witnessed an atomic bomb mushroom cloud on through the generations. So we do want to make sure he's protected. The active shooter authorities scrambled. And you might say you scared the crap out of parents and kids. But I was in high school when 9/11 happened, right? And most of us turned out fine. Now there's a lot more counseling and things like that. But that kind of incident can be compartmentalized to some degree. I think the kids will be fine. Now if it keeps happening, that's another issue, right? Like what happened at the University of Pittsburgh, where there were bomb threats every day for a couple months. I think they located out of Australia, but again, that could have been the Australian higher education system trying to establish ground communication in the United States. So it's tough to say, and that's what I say about these pay telephones. You have one caller calling and making these things. Now we have artificial intelligence or programming that can hit 8 schools all with the same message all at once. You can't do that from a payphone, so you have to weigh the risks of having payphones with the benefits of it. You might catch a lot more white-collar criminals or government corruption or what have you. Anything people want to not be tracked on a phone about, having a conversation about, that opens up possibilities. Alright, so we acknowledge that buffer zone on the western side of North America for 15 or so months. So that means I still need to fly to San Francisco, drive down the west coast of San Diego, and to cover all of North America, including Mexico. I've looked into cruise lines from San Diego to Costa Rica, and I'll get into that tomorrow. I have a better plan, a little bit more interesting of a plan for the, instead of wire transfers from military personnel. We'll get into that tomorrow. So what I want to get into now is my ideas for Tesla. Now recently it came to my attention that Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer, bought his law degree from Barbados. I didn't realize this was an option. I thought if I wanted to become a lawyer, which I think I'd be pretty good at, I would have to go to the University of Pittsburgh Law School for 3 or 4 years or whatever it is. I didn't realize this is an option, so I don't think Elon Musk is going to hire me into Tesla after he hears these ideas, right? And especially after I criticize him on his own platform later today. But I would ask this, Elon Musk, if you do get this message, would you buy my law degree from Barbados or some Caribbean island that recognizes it, that the United States recognizes it, so that I can practice law in the United States and defend military personnel or any other government official? And my argument is going to be 90% of the time we have the right to trial by jury. So all these bench trials that aren't guaranteed trial by jury, all these little infractions that are just a fine and bench trial and judge, I would go and make these arguments for different government personnel until we get it back on track. I'm sure I'd develop other interesting arguments that judges would at least take note of and hear out at all these bench trials. So I'm asking that. So here's the rundown for Tesla. It plays into the Trump book. I call it the Trump book because it focuses on a second term of Trump coming to power. But the book is actually called The Consultant. And it's the Con, C-O-N, the elemental symbol for salt, N-A-C-O. So Con, N-A-C-O, and ant. Plays into one of my short stories, The Consultant. Because I'm sure there's at least a couple books out there called The Consultant already, so this is a different twist on the title. So it starts out, I'm in the mental hospital, I'm spewing out all these ideas for mayor of Pittsburgh or any city. Then I get released from the mental hospital because someone wants to hire me as a consultant. And I'm not sure if it's Trump himself or his organization or Tesla. I haven't decided which one. It's probably going to be Trump. He gets all this information from the military about me and decides keep your enemies even closer, and he hires me as a consultant to work on his organization. Eventually, I move on to Tesla. Tesla hires me, and what I come up with is an idea. I'm working on how to extend the range of electric vehicles. And what I come up with is a system, and this might have already been thought of at Tesla or elsewhere. It's a drafting system, and it involves smart trucks that communicate with Tesla electric vehicles. They're smart semi-trucks, and their routes are mapped out. They're tractor-trailer, and you punch in when you're driving on a long road trip, say down the East Coast, West Coast, you punch in your Tesla vehicle, and it finds one of these semi-tractor trailers taking 100 miles of that route, and you pull up, you hit an automated button, and the Tesla communicates with the truck, braking, acceleration, so on and so forth. It pulls you up super close to the back of the semi-trailer, and the draft wind off of that trailer sucks the car so that it can power down and go into basically a neutral phase and hover in the bubble created behind the tractor trailer and use very little power just to stay in that bubble, and uses the power of either the diesel or gas powered truck or hypothetically an electric truck to go for 100 miles or 200 miles on that route until the truck takes an exit or the car needs to exit. Then you disengage the autopilot feature and the electric vehicle it powers up and comes up to speed, and you pass the truck or you do whatever until you find another truck. So it extends the battery life of your electric vehicle for long road trips to other locations. So I come up with that idea for Tesla, right? And I'm working on that. And then I come up and I say to Elon or whoever, I try to work it up through the ranks. Hey, why don't we work with airports or work with the airlines, start buying properties near airlines and airports, and why don't we work it out to where you can get some kind of discount for a flight or whatever, where Tesla vehicles are all located at airports. People walk off the plane, they get a Tesla vehicle, and kind of like a collective group type of thing, where where people can use these vehicles and return home and stuff like that, which I'll get into in more detail, because what happens is I get into the detail that I'm going to go into tomorrow about this program, and Tesla says we don't want to do that because it would mean we sell less cars, right? We would sell less cars in the long run if people had a collective type of situation where they could just use cars at airports when they needed them. Means they have access to the cars and they won't buy new cars. We're all about selling cars, not changing, not fighting climate change at its core. So that hypocrisy causes me to go off and start my own car company, and while I'm doing that, I become the consultant of the governor of California, and we work together on wildfire problems and other issues as I then enter a race to become governor of Pennsylvania and put out a bunch of other ideas that can both be done in California and Pennsylvania, two of the most largest and most populous states, to kind of set the bar so that the rest of the states have to come up and incorporate those systems into the rest of the country. So again, I said, I would want to run for president. I don't really want to run for president because I could do so much as mayor or as governor to change things. The president gets kind of locked in, and they're getting so much information, and they can't really exact a lot of change because of the divisiveness in Washington. And I'm working on that through another podcast, Ken Missioner. We recorded that yesterday to end the divisiveness in politics and get us working together on some common goals. You keep your same values, but there's a lot of common goals out there that we can find. So that's the Tesla scheme. I'll get into more detail about a hypothetical car company or working with airlines tomorrow. So Elon, if you want to hire me, that's fine. I'm going to criticize you later on your platform if I'm still allowed to set up a poll on Twitter about how you're going to make people, you're only going to allow paying customers vote in polls, which makes I would commend Elon for putting a poll out as to whether he should be CEO or not. That's democracy in business. That's direct democracy. And then I just read that he's going to do this and limit the ability of people to vote, which is never a good thing. So thanks for watching, and I'll get into some more tomorrow. Join me tomorrow when I talk about some other concepts.